Welcome to Houston, Texas, and our Big Ten Network coverage of Media Day for the National Championship game as 14-0 Michigan meets up with 14-0 Washington. Dave Revson, Nicole Auerbach, and Jake Butt. The excitement is palpable. We are all fired up to be here. Big picture, what are you thinking about as we are now 2 days away from kickoff?
Well, I still just keep thinking about how incredible it is that the two unbeaten teams are here and that we're playing for a national championship. It's been a minute since a Big Ten team has been here, and we already know, because Washington's joining the league, that the Big Ten's going to have the defending national champion next year. So, Jake, that's where I continue to go, and that I just cannot wait to see Washington's offense and Michigan's defense.
It's beautiful. It almost feels divine. Like these teams are on a collision course, two undefeateds, two great storylines. I know both teams feel like we're the team of destiny. Both teams feel it. The number one thing I'm thinking from a Michigan perspective, though, is, we're down there on the field in Pasadena after the Rose Bowl, and it felt like something was won. Something was won, but it felt like the emotions, and that was the game. What has this week been like for their team to quickly turn the page and get prepared? Because, starting fast is critical in this game as well.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to think back to that moment on the field in Pasadena. And it's crazy, talking about this a little bit on Big Ten Today yesterday, kind of the notion that when we all went down on the field in the final 5 minutes, Michigan was trailing in the game.
Yeah.
And then the way that everything flipped there in those last 5 minutes, the incredible drive, the 4th and 2 conversion, sending it into overtime and then winning it 2 plays in with the Blake Corum touchdown. And you did feel as if a collective weight had been lifted here for Michigan. But I think now the challenge is, Jake, how do you get refocused? How do you put that behind you and say, okay, ended the bowl losing streak, ended this kind of notion that they can't win a big postseason game, and now you focus on what is a really good opponent in Washington?
Well, that had to have happened immediately after the game, right? Or you celebrate for 24 hours. And the good thing is that's for everybody else outside of the program to celebrate and get happy and get excited. Business as usual for Coach Harbaugh. He does his post-game interview. He says, hey, well, talk to this guy, right? And when I was talking to the players this week, they said, yeah, once we got on the plane, they're immediately back in the building the next day, because they understand this is the ultimate goal. It wasn't to win a playoff game or win the semifinals. It was always about winning a national title.
What's going to be really interesting, too, is, as you guys mentioned, turning the page. This is also a very short turnaround. Last year, 11 days in between the semifinal and the championship game. This is a week. It's not quite like a normal game week, and the road trip and all the attention, but not only turning the page, but actually getting that preparation in a short period of time. And Michigan, we saw a lot out of them, a lot of different looks in that Rose Bowl game. So what do we see that is different, wrinkles, or did they already prepare things just in case that they were holding in case they won that game?
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me kind of along those lines is the preparation for the opponent. And I'm interested to get your take on this, Jake. I think there are some similarities between Washington and Ohio State. Certainly the most obvious one is offensively. You're dealing with a great wide receiver room. That was what you had to deal with the Buckeyes as well. Does that help at all? I mean, I realize they're two different teams, two different schemes, but just the notion of going up against a wide receiver core of this caliber and a quarterback that throws the ball as well as Penix does having prepared for Ohio State somewhat recently help Michigan in any way?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's the principles that matter. The conversations that Michigan had ahead of the Ohio State game are going to be very similar conversations that Michigan has had this entire week. And as far as the quick turnaround goes, this is where your scouting department is extremely critical. They should have been scouting both Washington and Texas the entire month, preparing for this moment so they could hit the ground running. But the conversations are absolutely important. To me, this game, it reminds me of the 2021, the turning of Michigan's program, Ohio State-Michigan game, when Ohio State had C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Garrett Wilson. You could go down the line. Quarterback and great weapons. That's when Michigan turned this program around, and here it is again to elevate to new heights against an explosive offense.
Yeah, I will say, though, Michael Penix Jr., best quarterback this defense.
No doubt, and this is the best offense. This is the best offense that Michigan has faced. But this will be the best defense that Washington has faced as well, and I think that's what makes this so fascinating. A ton of coverage coming up here from Houston as we dive into Media Day. We will be here throughout, but for now, we send it to Mike Hall in Chicago.
We are in the midst of a weekend-long extravaganza preparing you for this national championship game. Howard Griffith and Mike Hall here with you. We'll get you back out to site. We're going to hear from so many different players as we cover every angle of this national championship game. But we were just talking before the show, and you brought something up which was interesting, which is at least I'll speak for myself, I hadn't thought too much about Washington in terms of how Michigan prepares for them, because it was, well, the first step is the behemoth that is Alabama. But that's not how coaching staffs work.
No.
This is a Michigan team that is ready for Washington.
Yeah, you talk about defensive analysts, offensive analysts, people that are also working in the program to really help and focus on what that next game is going to be. Now, when it came down to the 14 playoffs, Michigan knew that there were two opportunities. There was Texas, it was there, and obviously Washington. So you would already have your advanced scouts taking care of that as far as film study is concerned and tendencies. So by the time those coaches got on that airplane to get back to Ann Arbor, they had detailed notes about what kinds of offense and defense that they believe would work and help them in this situation.
How do you do a thing that you've never done before? Which, granted, basically everyone at Washington is in the same boat. They've never been in a national championship game. But still, whether it's Harbaugh as a head coach, the staff, the quarterback, the players, your leaders on the team, the freshmen, nobody's been to a national championship.
And that's one of the things. So do you call other coaches that have been in that situation that you're friends with to discuss what travel is like? And this is really what back offices are doing in preparation for what is it going to be like. Probably football operations. We're talking to other football operation people around the country to get a sense for what they did. What were some of the good things? What were some of the bad things? And then ultimately you have to go in and formulate your own plan and let it play out. But the key to this, the key to the whole thing is being focused and dialed in to what you need to do as an organization. Dial into the game plan, dial into what you have to do, understanding that this is a business trip and this is a very rare opportunity and you don't want to let it slip by your hands.
30 seconds. Give me an idea when you played in your first Super Bowl. What was the thing that you were like, either I had to focus on this or I learned to make sure I did this and getting prepped?
To really calm down, right? The game is going to come. The build-up for the game is going to be huge. People around you are talking about it, but you have to take your time and not get too high and not get too low. You have to try to stay as even-keeled as possible because the adrenaline is always flowing, right? You're hearing about just how big this game, what it can do for not only your career, but for the university. So you got to block out all the noise on the outside and really focus on what you need to do to be successful in this game.
NRG Stadium will be the home for the national championship game and a chance for Jim Harbaugh to add another notch on his belt. He's already won 4 Big Ten titles, 3 as a coach. He's been so good at Michigan. This really is the last hurdle for him to go through, and he is joining our crew right now in Houston to chat about it all.
Thrilled to be joined now by the head coach of the Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh. Coach, first of all, the turnaround is a quick one, and we were talking about this at the outset of our show, just 7 days in between the games. How did you get the team to turn the page and focus on this one?
Get rest first. Getting back from the West Coast, that was quite a trip, and I'd talked to Kirby Smart. It was one of the pieces of advice he gave. It was just going to be a short turnaround and a lot of travel time, and make sure you get the guys get them plenty of rest. So we've done our best to do that, and also putting in the game plan, getting prepared, getting practiced, and putting the finishing touches on it now, and getting ready for Monday night. But yeah, just super excited, super thrilled to be here. I mean, these things, you watch every year, right? I mean, I do anyway, and whether it's the football, the basketball, the water polo, the national championship, baseball, and boy, that'd be great to be there, and here we are, and it's been a full year of dreaming about it, working, hoping, and here we are. So we're just a feeling of onward. Let's have at it.
Coach, in the Michigan circles, we say those who stay will be champions, right? And I think about Blake Corum, Zach Zinner, Trevor Keegan, guys that decided to come back and said, hey, this is our goal all the way back in January. I see the love you guys have for one another. What has this season meant for you with the relationship of your seniors that came back and set out to do exactly this?
It's a relationship special with everybody. Seniors, fifth-year guys. We got Mike Barrett, who's 6-year OG. He's been there for so long, and freshmen that have contributed and been a part of it, whether they're playing on the field or not. I mean, just great to be around them too. And guys that have transferred in have been tremendous. So it's a tremendous relationship with every single guy on the team and coaches. Very, very united front. Just unanimous support, unconditional, and what they do for the team, which is just about anything and everything that's within their talent, and you just admire and respect it, and just a blast. I mean, if I could talk about just going to work every day with J.J. McCarthy, and it's a blast.
Coach, one of the things I think is so cool about this story for you personally is just your deep connection to Michigan. I mean, the fact that your dad was on Bo's staff, that you went there and played there and were a great player. What does it mean to you to be bringing your school, this school that you have such a deep connection with, back to the pinnacle of the sport?
Oh, it's awesome that everybody gets to feel it. That each player on the team knows what it's like to be a champion. That their parents know what it's like to have a son who's a champion, to have their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents know what it's like. For my kids, to have a dad who's a champion. For our coaches, the same thing. My brother, just for them, really. For everybody else to feel, what it's like to have their son be a champion. That's to me, everything Jake talked about. Those who stay will be champions. Those who work will stay. Those who stay will be champions. We just really something we believe. Something that's in our core and that we really think highly of and go about. And to watch our guys do that, and then be in position to win the national title. That's right where we want to be.
Just watching the film and watching you guys compete last week, the pre-snap schematics, Sharon Moore and Jesse Minter, what they did to confuse Alabama. And I'm thinking about it with the month off, how you can maybe, fine-tune some of these details. Now it's the quick turnaround. How has the approach changed this week in terms of being able to install some of the more complicated schemes?
Yeah, it's a great question. You prepare. I mean, it's either going to be Texas or Washington, and you have a really good scouting report done in advance for both of those teams. But you don't start, in earnest, really working and practicing that plan until it's this week, and it's just like so it becomes like a game week, like in the season, getting back into that rhythm, that battle rhythm of playing on a Saturday and again on the next Saturday. And you go about that, and you haven't done that in a month. I mean, it's almost 6 weeks since we've been in that battle rhythm. So getting back into that battle rhythm, it takes some real mental focus, and I think our guys have done it, and we're back. I think right now we're in a place where we would be if it was a regular season battle rhythm week. Just really getting to that loose and focused spot. Not too tight. Just there's a sweet spot in there. You're not too loose, not too tight. But a good focus.
Coach, you are one of just two people, Pete Carroll would be the other one, who's coached in a true national championship college football game and then the Super Bowl. You obviously haven't been to the game yet. You're on the precipice of coaching it on
God
Monday.
willing.
I like your chances of getting there. How would you compare the two experiences, though? Like what you've been through in getting to this versus what it took to get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, very similar. Because it's the playoff, mentality. Win or go home. I mean, that really starts, late in November. November to us was, so every game in November was a playoff, and then that proceeded into, followed by a playoff game in Indianapolis, and then another last week, and so 15th game, pretty not as many as the NFL, but it's in that same category now, which is great. Playoffs, like every other sport in college, now football has really evolved to that playoff to get to the national champion.
Coach, for me, there's like a little kid in me
that's, you know, you're playing in the backyard with your brothers and your friends, and you're like, hey, one day I'd love to play for a national title, you know? And there's just this joy that I'm feeling this week. I can only imagine what it's like for you and your players. What's the little kid Jim Harbaugh feel this week as you get to compete for the ultimate goal, which is winning a national title?
Yeah, I mean, the little kid in me I go back to being a little kid, and, you know, being in the summer when you got a group of guys and you went down to Pattongill Elementary School, and there was basketball games taking place, and they started in the morning, and if you won, you got to stay on the court, and if you lost, you had to wait, you had to put together another team, and then have a chance to get back on the blacktop, you know, with the chain link basketball nets, you know, and the goal was to play all morning, play till lunch. If we could just get to lunch, you know, and still be playing, you know, then we take a break, you get something to eat, and then you come back and see how far you can go in the afternoon. I mean, that's what it feels like to me.
Head coach of the Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh. Coach, congratulations on getting to this point. Can't wait to see this game coming up here on Monday. And as always, really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Dave. Jake?
It has been quite a run for Blake Corum. He now has 59 touchdowns from scrimmage, which is indeed more than any player in Michigan Wolverine history. No big deal. That only goes back 144 seasons. Let's check in with one of the best players in the country as he joins our crew in Houston.
All-time rushing touchdown leader in Michigan history, Blake Corum, is with us. Blake, what does it mean to you to be here? I mean, you think about everything that you've been through in your career, including the COVID season where you guys went 2-4, and now here you are on the precipice of a national championship.
You know, it's truly a blessing, man. All the hard work we put in, all the sacrifice, all the tears, you know, all the off-season work, all the adversity, and we're finally here. You know, we were able to get over the hump and do it for Michigan, do it for the fans, do it for each other, do it for the alum. We're here, man. Now we just got to finish the job.
Those who stay will be champions, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the biggest Michigan quotes. And you had a chance to leave last year with the injury and everything. This could have been your rookie year in the NFL. You chose to stay. What does that statement mean to you, and why did you choose to come back to Michigan?
You know, it means a lot to me because, you know, a lot of guys, they might have left, but, you know, I saw through all of it. You know, I knew the NFL wasn't going anywhere. I wanted to come back for something a little bigger. And look, we're here. This is the biggest of the big. We're playing for the national championship. You know, we have the opportunity to do something very, very special. You know, and it's just a blessing, man. You know, it hasn't really settled in for me just because I'm so focused on the job at hand, the task at hand. But I swear, you know, after we get this win, and I'm speaking it into existence, after we get this win, it will all settle in.
It is remarkable to me to think about where this program has been, and I alluded to a moment ago that 2020 season. How do you think that forged this group, especially those like yourself who have been here the whole time?
You know, I think we needed that 2020 season just because we saw what pieces we were missing. You know, our culture wasn't where we wanted to be, so we fixed that at first. You know, so going into 2021, you know, Aiden Hutchinson, you know, Josh Ross, you know, the captains fixed that problem. And so therefore, it started in the locker room. We started to bond more. We started to talk more. We started to really become brothers. And ever since then, we've only become closer and closer and closer. And I think that's what set us up for so much success over these last couple of years.
Well, you said it really hasn't settled in. You're so focused. I think that's encouraging for Michigan fans to hear because there's a big celebration. You guys finally won a playoff game, and yet the job's not finished. What's this week been like? What's the conversations been like in the locker room for you guys to be able to turn the page and play your best game Monday night?
You know, everyone's just so locked in right now, just from film study, you know, making sure we're taking care of our bodies, you know, working out a little bit, and just attacking each day, you know, executing at a high level at practice, you know, paying attention to detail, making sure once it comes Monday, we know everything that Washington might throw at us. And we know they might throw some new stuff at us, but we have to be prepared and we have to be ready. And we're ready for Monday. But like Coach Jay Harbaugh says, the hay's not in the barn, and so we have a little bit more work to do.
Give us an idea of what you're up against with Washington's defense.
You know, their style, I really like their front five, and you can say front seven. especially number 8. He's a dog. He's long, strong, fast, and he's determined. And so, they're going to throw a lot of different things at us. Sometimes they throw things at you that, make you think twice, confuse you, pre-snap reads and things like that. So, they're definitely going to give us a challenge, but, nothing we can't handle. I think it's going to be a great game against a great defense. They really buy into what the coaches are coaching them. And so I'm super excited.
Felt like your offensive line, tight ends, the receivers blocking out on the edge too. A guy like Max Bredesen. You lose Zach Zinner, consensus All-American captain. From your perspective, what makes that group so special?
Their mentality, man. You talk about Bredesen. I know when we're on the goal line and he's lead blocking for me, and he looks back at me, I look back at him, and we're getting in. Then I look at A.J. Barner, and we're in the huddle, and he's, when his Triple H voice, it's time to play the game. And I'm like, let's go. It gets the hair sticking on my arm. But everyone, just their mentality to smash someone who's in front of them, create an opportunity for whoever may have the ball. And they're just willed to win. And, we have an amazing offense from the offensive line, the quarterback, the receivers, tight ends, and the running back position. And it's amazing how close we are as brothers. And I think that's what separates us from others.
Blake Corum, always appreciate your time. Best of luck on Monday.
Thank you so much.
One of the interesting matchups in this game is strength on strength when the Washington offense, which is a top 10 offense in the country, goes against the very best defense nationally, as Michigan allows only 10 points per contest, less than 250 total yards per game. One of the main reasons why is Mikey Sainristil, who's great in just about everything you could ask for in a defensive back. He's with our crew in Houston.
Michigan defensive back Mike Sainristil joining us now. Mike, it's hard not to think about your journey coming into Michigan as a wide receiver, not all that heavily recruited. Now here you are, considered one of the best defensive backs in the country and a guy who's playing for a national championship game. When you go through all of that, what do you think about?
I just think about, not quitting, not giving up in the process, trusting the process, and, just believing that, you're here for a reason, just staying patient, and, at some point you're going to get your opportunity, and when that opportunity comes, don't let it surprise you because you weren't prepared, you weren't ready, you didn't do the necessary things in between of the time you got there to the time the opportunity presented itself.
To continue off Dave's question, I mean, this year has been so special for you for a number of different reasons, right? You're voted captain. You guys get over the hump. You win a playoff game. All the success you've had on the field. You find out you're going to be having a child too. I mean, how do you put this in words? How do you summarize what this year has meant for you?
I would just say that this is a year that's been very special. Like you said, knowing that I announced it that I'm having a kid in December or November, but I knew since October, and it just throughout the year, just keeping it to myself in the back of my mind, now I have extra motivation. I know in my heart, that I have another reason now to be great, to do what it is that God's called me to do, and just everything that this team's been through. For a good team, it's easy to get distracted, go through the emotional roller coaster. For a great team, that's when you stay level-headed, you stay locked in, you stay focused, and just worry about what your goal is, worry about what your mission is, and don't let anything outside get in between and derail you from what you're, where you're headed.
Well, your mission on Monday is to slow down one of the best receiving corps in the country, if not the best. That's the matchup I know a lot of people are focused on. Their offense against your defense, and probably more particularly your secondary. What are you up against with this group? What stands out when you watch them?
So they have a very good O-line who doesn't allow Penix to get touched, number one. Joe Moore award winners, our D-line knows they have a great matchup up there. They have a very good quarterback who will dice you up. He will take the ones you give him. He will throw the 50-50 ball because of the amount of trust he has in his receivers. And, he'll throw the ball. He'll be looking one way, throw the ball the other way with pressure in his face in the blink of an eye. And he's a quarterback that brings a lot of experience, his sixth year. So he's seen and played a bunch of football. And then lastly, their receivers, very good receivers. They'll speed release you when you're pressed in coverage. They'll make the contested catches. And, they're they're not afraid of, talking and bickering at you. And for us as a defense, how else would you want it? Who else would you rather play than the #1 offense in the country in the national championship, knowing that you're the #1 defense in the country?
It's an amazing challenge. After you guys played Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. said in one of his media sessions that he'd never seen the coverages that you guys threw at him on November 25th in the game. I'd imagine you got to have a similar game plan this week in terms of confusing Michael Penix, and that starts with Jesse Minter. What's he meant to your defense, being the orchestrator to get all this amazing talent working as one unit?
I would say, if you guys knew Coach Minter and understood the amount of sleep he loses to make sure that this defense is great, you wouldn't believe it. Like, the things he does to make sure that we're going to go out there and be successful on Saturdays and postseason Mondays now. He has this thing to a T with our preparation, and I think Coach Minter is the best DC in the country. Definitely going to be a head coach someday if he chooses to be a very good head coach. And the amount of preparation, the way he allows us to go out there, be ourselves, #1, and trust in the fact that we're going to execute some of the difficult game plans he has for us, that's what makes him such a great coach.
Well, I have to believe this is a challenging game plan for sure against an outstanding team, but you guys are up to the challenge, have been all year. Fascinated to see how this plays out here, strength against strength on Monday. Mike Sainristil, always appreciate how generous you are with your time. Thanks so much. Great to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Back to Chicago.
When you win the Rose Bowl, you get a big old fancy sticker. The Michigan Wolverines did just that, placed it on their helmets. Win number 1003 in program history. More on the defense now. Michael Barrett's with our crew.
Hey, Michigan linebacker Michael Barrett. And Michael, let's look back before we look ahead. You guys played so well in that Rose Bowl game against Alabama. What was the biggest key, you think, for your defense in terms of being locked in on the game plan and putting the pressure on the Crimson Tide that you did?
Just the way that we gel together. I feel like, playing on all three levels, just being able to rely on each other. I feel like we're relying on our D-line to, get that pressure on the quarterback, relying on the DBs to, cover it long enough so we can get that pressure. And just, executing. I feel like just that coming out and executing the game plan that we prepared for. The coaches put a great game plan together, and, all the guys kind of bought into it and executed it great.
I know all linebackers love great D linemen, the guys that can eat up double teams so you guys can be free. Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, I could list them off. What do they mean to your defense, that interior of this defensive line?
Man, they're the heart and soul. The front line, the D-line, that kind of run the team. Everything starts up front. So, when those guys are block destructing, and getting those guys, those double teams off of us, keeping those off of us, we can just kind of run sideline to sideline, keeping everything free. So it kind of runs off of them. We go how they go, and those guys are doing a great job up front.
This is an outstanding offense you're going up against in Washington. You obviously don't need me to tell you that. Is there anyone they compare to that you have faced so far this year?
With just the way that they play, I would kind of just say Ohio State will kind of just be the biggest comparison. Just the kind of athletes they have, out wide with their wideouts. The quarterback that they have, always have a great quarterback. It's kind of hard to compare a team like this. They have great weapons, great quarterback, elite quarterback, and a great offensive line. So, it'll be a great test for us, I feel like, going forward, and I think we'll get it done.
I do want to ask you one more question about the Rose Bowl. The way the game started off, where it looked like an interception, then it wasn't. You punt the ball. You guys get a quick 3 and out. Then it's a muffed punt return. Bama scores right away. What was the conversation like on the sideline in that moment? Because I know you guys take pride. You say, hey, no one can score on our defense.
Yeah, it was just lock in. We're good. We all knew what we needed to do, what was needed to done, what needed to be done. I feel like just kind of erasing those mistakes. We all knew the game plan, what we needed to do, the corrections we need to make. Came over on the sideline. All the coaches kind of gave us all the corrections, and we just kind of went forward. you know, can't really sit on mistakes too long. You know, give it 3 seconds and move on. That's kind of what Coach Herb kind of taught us. Give it those 3 seconds, move on to the next, and that's kind of how it was. Just move on to the next series. Can't do anything about that touchdown. Just kind of going forward. Just can't let it happen again.
There's so much extra going on here in the college football playoff, right? I mean, the notion, first of all, of travel. I mean, long travel out to the West Coast, and then this is not a short trip down here. You have all the stuff like this, right? All the media responsibilities. How do you stay dialed in on the game plan with everything else going on? I mean, you could say, well, it's 7 days in between games, but it's an unusual 7 days compared to a normal week.
Just keeping that one-track mind that we've been doing all year, you know, with everything, all the adversities we've kind of just been faced throughout the year, throughout this season. Just kind of keeping those end goals at mind at all times, just kind of knowing what we're here for, knowing, you know, this is a business trip, regardless of kind of all the glamour that's going on around us, just kind of knowing what we're here for, knowing what we got to get done.
Michael Barrett, congratulations on making it to this point, and looking forward to watching this one on Monday. Best of luck.
You having me.
Mike?
Thank you, Dave. Here's a look at some of the big numbers to know here. Both teams are 14-0. Both teams are undefeated, which is pretty rare. It's only happened less than, I think it's 9 times total since the beginning of the BCS era, where the championship game is 2 undefeated squads. Both had a really good success rate against ranked teams. 5 wins for the Huskies, 4 for the Wolverines. Washington's been winning a lot of close games. In fact, 10 consecutive games they've won by 10 points or less, whereas Michigan's just been blowing people out on the whole. More than 25 points per game they have been winning. They've been doing it with young guys and old guys alike. Speaking of the former, let's check in now as Semaj Morgan is standing by.
Wide receiver Semaj Morgan is with us. Semaj, freshman year, I mean, you come in and this is where it takes you. Just give us a sense of what this journey's been like.
Man, this journey has been an absolute dream for me. And, you know, I want to thank God for putting me in this position, man. My teammates, man, they're great teammates. I got great coaches every day, like, around me. And, you know, I just get to do what I love, you know what I'm saying? Just, like, coming out and doing, like, a lot of unexpected things this year, you know, I feel like I put in a lot of hard work. And I knew what I wanted to do when I came to college, and I didn't want to settle for anything else. So when I got here, you know, I just had to put in the work, and, you know, and I'm glad the work paid off, man, because it was a lot of hard work, man, you know. And adapting to, like, Michigan, like, it's very hard. I can't even lie. Like Michigan probably, like, some of the one of the toughest things I, like, had to adapt to. But I'm glad I did because, you know, like, right now we in a great position, and this is, like, all we was looking forward to all year since like, last year when we played TCU. So, you know, hard work pays off, and we a great team. I love it.
I just hear the conversations, the way you guys talk about each other. You know, Roman Wilson makes a promise and said, guys, I'm going to make a play in this game for you. You know, Cornelius Johnson, veteran presence, the way you guys gel together. What for Roman and Cornelius, what has their leadership meant for you as a younger, developing player?
Like, just that's the great thing about Michigan. It's pretty much older guys in every single room. So, like, being a young guy, when you come in, like, you always going to have a great example in front of you. So, like, but, like, with Roman and CJ, like, coming in, like, one thing I say Roman does very well is, like, he makes sure, like, we watch extra film with each other, and he makes sure he, like, talk to us and tell us, like, hey, we need to go harder at practice and things like that. And I feel like with CJ, he's a great, like, leader, like just doing it physically. Like, he goes out on the field, does everything right, you know what I'm saying? And we pretty much never have, like, problems out of him, like, with, like, lining up and things like that. So I feel like those are, like they, like, two leaders, but they, like, leaders on different sides. And I feel like that's great to have, like, being somebody like me, because I'm not really, like learning, like, coming in learning the playbook. Like, I wasn't really, like, a learner that would learn from, like, them just telling me things. I had to, like, see it or do it and things like that. So Roman, he'd tell me how to do it, and then I could see CJ go out on the field and, like, do certain, like, different things, and I can try it out, and then, you know, like, just get better at what we do. So
one of the things that was uncharacteristic of you guys in the Rose Bowl, and you unfortunately were a part of this, is special teams did not play as well as you have all year. What did you do this week to try to rectify that?
Man, you know, it was just really, like, you know, we had a few bad plays, but you know what I'm saying? I feel like with me, it was just like that was my second punt return of my whole career. So, you know, it's some things like, you know, mechanics that I don't like that I haven't like picked up well yet, but like really I just been catching like punts like just pure off athleticism. So I just got to get like a few more mechanics down, you know, down packing things like that. So, you know, I won't ever have that problem again. But, you know, what we've been doing, you know, we just been catching more balls, you know. Well, with me, I just been catching more balls. That's the only way you can get better at something is keep doing it. That's what Coach Harbaugh said, like, the only way to get better at football is to play football. So, hey, just been catching more balls, you know, making sure I'm doing everything right, focusing, you know, making sure my eyes on the ball, making sure I'm square, things like that, making sure I'm moving with the punter. So, and Coach J and Coach JB and like our special team staff, they doing a great job of making sure like me and Jake, we getting more comfortable back there. So I appreciate them.
All right, Semaj, best of luck on Monday. Congratulations on what's been a great year.
Appreciate that.
Let's go back to Mike.
Guys, thanks. Great chance to listen in to the Michigan Wolverines. Anything in particular stick out for you?
Well, you going back to Coach Harbaugh and some of his comments talking about getting back into that battle rhythm, that they haven't had that opportunity since going back to the regular season. So it'll be important for them to be dialed in, understanding what they need to do to be successful on Monday night.
Michigan offensive lineman Drake Nugent. And Drake, let's start with this. You transfer in from Stanford, your first year in the program, and here you are playing for a national championship. Just give us a sense of your journey and what this means to you.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. You know, especially like you can't really turn the tables any more than I did. I know we were 3-9 at Stanford last year, and to be sitting here at the national championship of all places, you know, the pedestal of college football is pretty surreal to me. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So Sharon Moore, when I think about the evolution of Michigan's program, you know, what he's meant for the offensive line, back-to-back Joe Moore Awards before you got here. Of course, Washington got it this year. What has he meant in terms of your growth on a personal level and the offensive line's growth this season?
Yeah, on a personal level, like I feel like I just trust him a lot. You know, obviously with the play calling, you trust him, but at the same time, like just in the personal development within the O-line room, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to come to Michigan. I could kind of see how the players gravitated towards him, how the room was in general, and I just could see myself being a part of that.
Give people a sense of the turnaround, kind of the calendar here over this past week, from the moment that the clock struck 0 at the Rose Bowl to where you are now, and kind of how you guys have celebrated that win, but then focused on the task at hand here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that night, obviously, we're all celebrating huge. We flew back right after the game, which was also a big thing for us, and we could use that next day to get in the training room, recover, and get a head start on Washington. But I think the most important thing for us is that we almost treat it as any game. You know, once it's done, you got to flush it and move on to the next, and all eyes and focus on Washington.
It feels like this team is different. It feels special. Yeah. And I think you got a good perspective, of course, just joining this year. You know, in your experience from all the teams you've played on, what makes this team special?
Yeah, I think just the way that we interact with each other, honestly. You know, I think me and my teammates were close to Stanford, but at the same time, maybe there wasn't as much trust when it came to on-the-field performance as there is here. And I think that just being able to play against such high-level competition, even in camp when I first got here, like I was like, wow, like this front seven is different. Like I played against some guys here and there in the pack and other teams, but like I was hitting Mason and KG and Chris. And I was like, wow, these guys are different. You know, like I gotta pick it up a little bit. You know, but yeah, I just think the way that we can trust each other. You know, defense can trust the offense when we're out there, and vice versa. So.
You're a guy who has experience, obviously, going against Washington, so it's pretty interesting. Ladarius actually was on the last team to beat them, so that's interesting too. I mean, you've got a few guys who have faced the Huskies, but give people who don't know about Washington a little bit of an idea of what Michigan's up against here.
Yeah, so I think they're very similar to us in how, like, a couple years ago they were having some struggles in this few seasons. You know, Kalen DeBoer came in and completely flipped the script for them. You know, actually I have a lot of respect for their program and how they've turned it around. You know, they're very well coached, especially on defense. You know, they run to the ball, they're big, they're strong. You know, I know a couple of guys from Colorado on their team as well, and one of their strength coaches used to be a strength coach at Stanford too, so I got a few personal connections towards their program, but yeah, it's going to be a great one Monday.
Talk about an offensive line. I compare it. A wide receiver is dependent on himself. Like, he's got to go run a route. Of course, the quarterback's going to throw him the football, but you're running a route. An offensive line is the sum is greater than the parts. Yeah. You're one unit. Zach Zinter goes down, and you guys have to shuffle against an excellent Alabama front. What do you think of the performance you guys were able to have last week without your captain and Zinter?
Yeah, I think it just shows the depth of the room. We kind of said it all year long that like our ones and twos could play, and that kind of just showed like once Zach went down, like how true that statement was probably going to become. Mm-hmm. And it still held true. Obviously, Trente came in, and Carson moved to guard, and they played their balls off. I was super happy with them, as the whole rest of the unit was. But I think it's just a testament to the room and how close we are and how we've been able to develop with each other. So.
Drake Nugent, congratulations on all the success this year. Can't wait to see how this one comes out on Monday. Best of luck.
Thank you.
A chance for J.J. McCarthy to continue to do what he has been doing for so long. The quarterback, who is 26-1 as a starter, has also been very good against ranked opponents in his career. 7 games, 6 wins, completing 2/3 of his passes. The man in charge of the Maize and Blue offense, standing by with our crew in Houston.
Happy to be joined now by Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. J.J., take us through this last week and everything that's going on around this team and how you guys have blocked that out and tried to focus on the task at hand here.
Appreciate you having me on, Dave, but it's been everything that we've been doing to get to this point. I feel like it's just constantly focused on the day at hand and how to improve ourselves each and every day.
Coach Harbaugh, we were talking to Coach Harbaugh earlier, and he's describing the job, and he's like, I get to come to work with J.J. McCarthy, man. I mean, you guys have just such a special relationship. Could you talk to us and describe your relationship with your head coach?
It's incredibly unique. It's like a father-son relationship, coach-player, friend-friend. I mean, everything about our relationship is absolutely amazing, and I couldn't ask for it to be better with our head coach. Yeah.
As you focus on this Washington team, what stands out as you watch their defense?
They're extremely disciplined. Being the veteran defense that they are, they do a lot of really good things schematically, and they disguise things very well, and they have athletes all over the board, so it's going to be a great test for us.
Think about one more game, man. One more game. This was the goal. I remember the picture of you standing under the confetti versus TCU, right? Mm-hmm. And you set out to do this. You guys said, we will be back. One more game. How do you guys go out there and play your best game on Monday night?
We play for each other like we have all year. We only have 3 days left together, and I feel like just being able to, re-emphasize the message, how do we want to be remembered, boys? And just going out there, leaving it all on the line every single play, and, emptying the take in the game plan and calling plays and all that. So I just feel like it's just going to be, really magical to go out there with this team and everything we've been through and just the amount of love we have for each other. It's all about playing for each other.
When you talk about that notion of kind of how do we want to be remembered and the players talking to one another, how much of this team is player driven in terms of the leadership?
As a player, I'd say, a lot. Obviously we have tremendous leaders from the coaching staff, but I feel like, with Blake, Keegan, Mikey, Mike B, Zint, Chris, like those guys are, the 6 horses that have been getting us to this point. And if we follow each and one of those guys, it's, they're going to lead us to the right place. So I feel like it's tremendously team player led, but also the coaches do a great job.
There's a weight, there's a gravity, there's something else about being the quarterback at the University of Michigan. You handle it so gracefully, man. You carry yourself so well, and it reflects on the team. How are you able to, handle everything that comes with being the quarterback in the face of the Michigan program?
I appreciate that, Jake, but it's I just think of it as going out there and having fun with my boys playing the game that I love. It's as simple as that. If you get caught up in all the, outside perception of what the Michigan quarterback is or what playing for the University of Michigan is, you could get lost. And I feel like, just being out there, enjoying every single moment, trying to get better in every single way, and, ultimately just playing the game that I love, it keeps me centered and grounded.
One of the things that people love to talk about with you is kind of this notion of staying in the moment, and you have that Zen meditation before the game. How important is it to lean on that kind of mental training that you put yourself through when you're into a game that is a game of this magnitude?
It's extremely important. You know, there is nothing but the present moment. And I feel like we allow our minds to drift off to the future or drift back to the past. And I feel like the most efficient way you're going to play a football game, the most efficient way you're going to do anything in life is if you're present. And just being able to, you know, re-emphasize that to the guys and really enjoy every single moment that this weekend has to offer and just go out there and do us at the end of the day.
Sharon Moore, I thought, called one of his best games. I mean, all the things you guys do pre-snap, it's really remarkable. You huddle, you shift, you motion, all the different personnel groups. How is this team able to handle it? Because it is rare. Not every team even tries to do it, let alone is capable of doing it in terms of all the pre-snap window dressing.
I mean, we got a really smart group. You know, it takes more than just being an athlete to get into the University of Michigan, and I feel like, you know, we harp ourselves on all the little details, and being able to play in this offense, you have to be locked into the little details. And it's just all the work in the offseason that helped made this season pretty effortless.
J.J. McCarthy, 26-1 as a starting quarterback in his career. Make it 27-1, and you're a national champion. J.J., thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Back to Chicago.
Good to hear from J.J. McCarthy. He and the Wolverines been playing some great ball. 14 wins this year. No Michigan team in the previous 143 seasons had won 14 wins in a single year. 2024 national championship game literally just hours away from happening. And while Rome Odunze gets all the attention as the wide receiver, remember, Jalen Polk is also a 1,000-yard receiver on the year. He's with our crew right now.
To have Washington wide receiver Jalen Polk with us. Jalen, you've been here through some of the tough times. You transferred from Texas Tech, came in. You guys went 4-8 that first season. I know you didn't play a whole lot, but help people understand the transformation of this program and what Coach Jabbar has done to get it from 4-8 to where you guys are now.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of guys that, you know, that's really committed to this program. And, you know, we understood that, you know, in that locker room, we had a bunch of guys that, you know, are really talented. And, you know, we believed in, you know, what we could do here. And, you know, following that next season with the new staff coming in, and a lot of guys bought into, you know, what they believed in and the things that Coach Jabbar has done in the past. And we had a lot of guys that came back who could have went declared for the draft, and, you know, which made our team a lot better. We was able to get guys in that transfers, and that can help this team a lot. And, you know, a lot of guys bought in. It was like a domino effect. And, you know, the younger guys fell for it too. And we were all just committed to what we had going on, and we got the job done, and we're continuously just going and pushing through.
Belief seems to be like a fitting word for your team this year. I mean, going back to the Oregon game where, you know, they were picked to win that, and then you have a stretch of, you know, I don't know how many ranked games in a row, but it was a matchup. And it felt like people were waiting on Washington to slip up, your team to lose, but you guys didn't do it. Why is your team able to overcome all the challenges within the season?
The relationships that we have with each other in the locker room. You know, this is truly a brotherhood. We lean on each other on tough times, when things get really hard, and, you know, throughout the off season, when things got really hard, we knew when we lean on each other in those moments like that, and the end of the season, and the season when we have tough games, you know, we're going to be able to pull through and get the job done.
How cognizant are you guys of the history here? We've been talking a lot about Michigan. They haven't won a national championship since 1997. Washington hasn't won one since 1991. To what extent do you guys talk about that and the significance of what this could mean for your school and for your program?
Yeah, since Coach Jabbar and the staff has gotten here, they had the plan set the whole time, and just continuously every team meeting, you know, we have a mountain, and each step of the mountain is something new. And, at the top of the peak of the mountain is the CFP and the national championship. So, you know, just continuously bringing it up every day. You know, winners win because that's what winners do. And going 1-0, you know, the things that he just continuously to talk about over and over again, you know, just going over and over again, and it shows. It shows.
Got to talk about your quarterback, Michael Penix. You know, at the Heisman ceremony, he kind of reflected on everything he's been through in his career, overcoming injuries, and clearly a key piece to your offense. What does his leadership mean? You know, when you guys get in the huddle and you see him calling a play, or and you're in team meetings, what does he mean to your team?
Mike is truly an inspiration, you know, not only to this team, but the whole world. just to see that the things that he's been able to overcome and conquer, throughout all the adversity that he's been through in his career, for him to be able to come here and change his whole program. And whenever he gets in that huddle, you want to do for him. You want to do your job at the utmost, ability that you're able to do it, because, it's bigger than you. I always say it's bigger than myself. It's a lot of guys that put in tons of work and, has been through so much, and, they deserve each and every moment.
Jalen, one of the things that's so cool about this matchup is that it's strength against strength. You guys have this fabulous receiving crew and offense in general. We know how good Michigan's defense is. When you watch them on tape, what stands out to you?
Those guys fly around. Really fundamental team. You're not really going to see them have any MAs. They're going to play together. They're going to fly to the ball, and they're going to make plays. So, it's important for us to be ready to do our job and go compete. I believe in our team. I believe that we're going to be able to bring it out. It's not going to be easy, of course, but yeah, we're going to make it happen.
Last question for you. You're from Lufkin, Texas, East Texas. What does it mean to be back in your home state playing for a national championship?
It's truly a blessing. All year I worked hard as I could, for this moment. And it's truly a blessing just to be able to be here, in Texas, to be able to finish this thing out and have a lot of family members and support system to come and see it happen. So, and me to be able to experience this with my teammates as well. So, that's the greatest feeling ever.
Jalen Polk, congratulations. Had a great year to this point. Look forward to seeing you out there on Monday.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleased to have one of the leaders of the Washington defense with us now, cornerback Jabbar Muhammad, the Pac-12 leader in passes defended this year. Jabbar, your journey's a fascinating one, right? You come in, you transfer from Oklahoma State, and your first year, here you are playing for a national championship. Take us through this last year and what it's all been for you.
Yeah, man, it's been great, honestly. These guys have welcomed me in with open arms. They have the most confidence in me. And when it's like that, man, you honestly just got to go out there and ball and hold your end of the bargain up. And, God willingly, that's what I've been able to do.
One of the more interesting things in the world of the transfer portal is you have a unique perspective of this program, of Coach Jabbar, of the team as a whole. Why did you choose to join this team?
Yeah, when I got in the portal and I got in contact with the coaches, they kind of sold me on the pitch. It was just like, the things that we have coming back, whether it was Mike and Rome and J-Mac, and the whole defense was coming back. And then the culture, we start talking about the culture and how they always getting closer and closer each day. And they were building something really good here, man. And I took a chance on it, and everything they said was true. It all came into fruition. So, they didn't sell not one lie to me, and it was great. Just having that kind of bond with the coaches. You can go to them and talk to them about anything, your frustrations, what you like about the program, and everything like that. So, man, as a kid, as a student, that's all you kind of wish for.
One of the things that's really interesting when you're coming out of the portal is kind of as Jake was talking about, you come in with a fresh perspective and a fresh set of eyes, and you have some things to compare it to. And I'm not asking you to say anything negative about Oklahoma State, but more so like what makes Washington so special. I think like as we sit here, you think about where Washington was a couple of years ago and where they are now, and the amazing job Coach Jabbar's done. I mean, 25 straight wins. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce here? What's this program done?
I'm gonna just say it's a player-led team. He gives the ropes to his players. He gives the ropes to his guys. Whether that's Mike, Eddie, Braylon, and those guys are really good leaders, man. He gave the ropes to them, and we just kind of follow them. I consider myself a leader as well, but we just all kind of bond together real well. We play for each other, honestly. I really can't explain it. You have to be in those four walls to see. But man, it's a really good culture. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Player-led team, that's something that's a common characteristic of championship teams. And every team likes to think of themselves as a player-led team, right? But it's no mistake that you guys actually are, and you're here. Yeah. So I'm curious, how that's able to happen and why you guys are so organically player-led.
I think, honestly, everybody just kind of understands their place. You know what I mean? Everybody know they have a role in this team, whether that's scout team getting a hell of a look for us, whether that's Braylon getting some pressure when he needed to, whether that's me getting a big PBU, whether that's Mike making a hell of a dime. Whatever it is, I think everybody just knows their place. You know what I mean? And when everybody knows that and understands that, I don't think nothing can stop you.
Jabbar Muhammad, a Texas native.
Yeah.
Back in his home state, playing for a national championship. Pretty good story. Jabbar, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Mike?